Hi, everybody. Sorry, my last recording did not have sound. So I'll do a quick one to catch up on anything that might be confusing about the module. This is our last week of new content, focusing on two topics, organizational change and culture, two of my favorites. I'm actually teaching an undergraduate full semester course in organizational change, and I've taught that at the graduate level as well. So trying to pick out just the most important pieces of these topics for our module this week. So organizational change is in chapter 14. We talked about org structure in the essentials class, so I'm not assigning that again, but you can take a look to review. Your last journal article is about servant leadership in general, so all of the characteristics that you've been writing about throughout the session are part of servant leadership, but this one is kind of an overall. So the discussion board looks at organizational culture, and so these are the shared values, norms, and assumptions in an organization. And so I'm going to ask you to describe an organization, talk about the artifacts, the physical manifestations of culture that we can actually see or hear, and then also try to link those to underlying values that are shared in that organization. So you should get some good examples from each other of organizational culture, which you already are writing about. The written assignment is to do an individual force field analysis. This is a change management planning tool where you identify the current state, what are the forces that are supporting the change you want to make, what are the forces working against the change you want to make, so that you can more clearly map out a strategy for dealing with those situations. There is a document here you can use. Sometimes the formatting is off, so you can also just list them. So identify a change, the driving and restraining forces. Think about how you will go about creating the change. So basically shifting the equilibrium point, shifting the current state towards your change. Identify specific restraining forces you'll try to reduce, which is actually the easiest way. Instead of pushing harder against those against your change, getting them to come around and see how the change can be not as bad as they think or positive. Identify who will resist and why, and how you'll handle that resistance. And then again, the final journal is about servant leadership. So I'm giving you some additional resources on servant leadership. Ask you to give examples, kind of summarize the other journals that you've written and identify 3 of the characteristics that you have demonstrated. Reflect on, have you ever worked for a servant leader? What was it like? And would you like to become more of a servant leader? So there are some argue that in some situations, servant leadership is not the right fit. So it may or may not be in the environment that you're working in. So that's week 7, module 7. Next week, we have the final reflection paper. So you're almost done.